Well, it's good being back, and I really appreciate Bobby. It really had a great message on opportunities, and thank him so much for doing that last week. Really, really appreciate it. And so, yes, I was very glad you showed up. Y'all ready to share the scriptures together this morning? I am too. I'm too. Let's go straight to John. This is really my favorite book in the Bible. John 1 said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through Him, and without Him nothing was made that was made. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. There was a man sent from John whose name was John. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. This man came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which gives light to every man coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God." May the Lord bless the reading of this word. This is some incredible, powerful theological, spiritual truths, all condensed in these first 13 passages. And I've been really meditating on this group of verses for these last 2 weeks, and it's really helped me. It's helped me see through the fog and through the confusion of what our whole spiritual life is, and what it should be, and what it's not, and what it could be. And I hope it'll bless you in the same way. It causes me really to go back and remember a time in my childhood when our family went to the Cave of the Winds up around Colorado Springs. I don't know how many of y'all have ever been in a cave before. And you go way down and see all the stalactites and stalagmites. And in this particular cave, they warned us that they were going to take us far underground, and they told us we're going to go into one big large room, and we're going to turn off the lights. You know, I turn off the lights every night when I go to bed, and it's dark for a second, and then your eyes adjust, and what do you see? You start seeing things and shapes and shadows. That is not what happens in a cave. I mean, it's unnerving. I can remember them turning off the lights, and I'm waiting for my eyes to adjust just a little bit, and it's just like a wet blanket is on me. It is so dark. I can feel it. I mean, I'm sticking my fingers in front. Y'all did the same thing, those of y'all who did it. You stick your fingers right in front of your nose, and I'm trying to see some movement, and I don't see anything. Man, it starts kind of feeling kind of spooky and kind of weird. I mean, nothing. And I don't care how hard I squint and how much I open my eyes, and no matter how much I'm bearing down, trying to look, trying hard to see, I couldn't see a thing. The truth is, without the light of God, that is the human spiritual condition. I don't care how much you try on your own, how much you try yourself, how much you squint, how much you look open eyes, how much you're trying to see as hard as you want to see. Without the light of God, there is nothing but darkness. It's important for us to understand what darkness is. Darkness is not a thing. It's really just the absence of light. It's a condition of lack. It's what we don't have. That's all that it is. Let's go back. We'll go back and read verses 4. It says, "In him," and who's that him? Capital H. in Jesus, and the Word. In Jesus was life, and the life was the light of men. When God first created, He said, let there be what? Let there be light. Let there be light. Verse 5 then says, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness didn't comprehend it. See, light repels darkness. It always pushes darkness away. Darkness is powerless when confronted with light. It has no power whatsoever. It is when light comes and displaces darkness, it displaces that condition. And in that verse, it's talking about the darkness did not comprehend it. In some translations, it's the darkness did not overtake it, and the darkness did not overcome it. The darkness did not extinguish it. The darkness will not absorb the light. It never does. Darkness always flees, and it stays right there at the edge of light. And so the question is because light always overtakes the darkness, the question is what's causing the darkness that we feel, and the darkness that we see, and the darkness that we experience? And see, because if there's light present, there should be no what? There should be no darkness. And so the real question becomes is, if there's darkness in our life, if there's darkness in our walk, if there's darkness in our corners, if there's darkness in our room, the question is what's causing it. And it's not caused by the darkness, it's caused by the lack of light. See, darkness only returns to the extent that the light fades, or the light burns low, or the light is extinguished and burns out. The amount of darkness is not because of the thickness of darkness. It's because of the lack of light. Isn't that true spiritually? We know that to be true physically. We know it. We've had campfires, and you go to sleep and the campfire's burning and blazing, and you go to sleep. You quit tending the fire, and what happens to it? It goes out. And you wake up and you're cold and it's kind of dark, and you see some embers, and you, oh no, I got to get up out of my sleeping bag. And but I don't want to get out of my sleeping bag. But if I'm going to get the fire going, and somebody's got to get up. It's your turn. Your turn to tend the fire. And that's what we do. Because sometimes, it takes some effort to tend the fire, doesn't it? I can't sit and just go to sleep and let the fire continue burning. Fires don't keep on burning forever. Batteries don't last forever, do they? I love being recharged. It was good being gone for a week, because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm charged back up again. It was good to get away sometime and just meditate and just think about something other than what you get used to. And if the fire's going out, if it's getting dim and it's getting dark in our life, what we've got to do is not focus on the darkness. What we've got to focus is on the solution. And if we're going to find the solution, we've got to start focusing on the source of light. It's just pure and simple. I've got to focus on the source of the light, and the source of that light is who? It's Jesus. It's Jesus. Jesus is that source of the light. He is the light that was given to all men, which gives light to every man come into the world. You don't have to be something special. It says every man, every person. That's men and women. It's all of us. All of us. Jesus gives us the light. The question is, do we accept it and receive it, or do we reject it? Because all of the world has been given the light. The question is, have they rejected the light that God has placed in their hearts and in their minds? And when things are getting dark for me, It is not because the enemy is stronger. It's because I quit listening and I quit spending time with the source of the light in my life. And that's just flat out being honest. See, the kingdom of darkness is not like in Star Wars, where there's the force and there's the dark side. And a lot of people think of life like that. They think of this dualism, that there's an equal and opposite darkness and light. That is false. There is only one force, and that force is the force of light, and the light that God gives. The darkness is only manifests itself in the absence of that light. We all clear on that? Well, that's the first point. I mean, it's just obvious to us. And it returns. And so the darkness is not a force in and of itself. It's merely the spiritual place in which evil operates. My daddy told me when I was a young teenager and I wanted to stay out past midnight. I bet your parents told you the same thing. Son, nothing good happens after midnight. And I didn't believe that. I thought, oh, my old dad, he's just being an old fuddy-dud. He doesn't want to worry. He doesn't want to stay up. And I stayed after midnight, and he was right. Nothing good. Not much good happens after midnight. Most folks do their bad stuff at what? In the bright of the day? At noon, at sunshine? No, they do it at dark. When do you make sure your doors are... There used to be a day when we didn't do this, but now you're mighty foolish if you don't. But when is it that you make sure your door is locked? At night. Because when do bad things happen? Bad things happen in the darkness. No question about it. Y'all got security lights around your home? Why? Because we're trying to shine the light. And there's something about darkness that makes people believe and feel that they cannot be seen, and somehow they get away with whatever they're getting away with. We may not be able to see it, but there's a God in heaven who does, because there is no darkness for him. And I don't care how dark your life may be right now, God sees clearly through it right now. He sees it. He sees what's happening, because there's no darkness for him. The Bible talks about a kingdom of darkness. It's just a place where people live and where they go and where they've been captivated by the enemy to live without God in the absence of his light. Scriptures talk about the powers of darkness, but the power of darkness is nothing other than us forfeiting and rejecting the life-giving light. And the only time darkness has power is because what we've actually done is we've believed a lie, or we've embraced deception. And anytime we believe a lie, and anytime we've embraced deception, we forfeit the light, and we begin to let darkness work in us. Darkness manifests itself in many, many different ways. And just like in this cave, in this cavern that I know that some of y'all have experienced, but I surely experienced it, is that evil manifests itself in different ways in darkness. And there's really almost, God kind of showed me as I was driving, there's different groups in this cave. Over in kind of one corner, I guess if caves don't really have corners, but kind of in this section of the cave, we've got people who've been wounded and people who've been hurt. And because they're living in that, they begin to believe the lies about themselves and the lies about their conditions. And maybe it's because of those hurts they now have unforgiveness that needs to be given, and they've withheld it. And so they continue to live in that darkness. That hee-haw song about gloom and despair and agony on me. Deep, dark depression. Dark depression. Anytime And it just comes in waves on us. It just comes in waves on us. I know what that feels like. Many of you do too. Of the darkness that comes when that depression comes on us as thick as if I am in a cave and I can see no way out. And those people who live in that corner are living in fear and they're living in anxiety and they feel that depression and they know it and it feels and it's real. It's not imaginary, it's real. How many of y'all ever lived that part of the cave? I have. And there's another part of the cave. There's kind of over here, those malicious actors. It's the ones who love violence. And there are people like that in this world. They love violent things. And they love nothing more than attempting, because they believe that they gain power through the wounds they inflict. They actually gain pleasure on hurting people. The haters, the controllers, the ones who, even as simple as gossip, which is really destroying people's reputations. It's a darkness, and it is a deep darkness. There's another corner of this cave where it's those, and that's the ones that seems to get so much of the attention. It's those who believe that pleasure provides the source of happiness and fulfillment in our lives. And I think that the pleasure, the thing that they seek, whether it's money that they're seeking, that now if I just have a little bit more, if I have just a little bit more, then I'm going to be happy and everything's going to be good. And they find that once they get there, they get to the top of the tree and there's nothing there. It's those people who believe that pleasure is going to satisfy all their needs. And they begin to self-medicate. They medicate, whether it's with drugs or whether it's just looking for the next high. And so much of the sexual immorality is just right in this, or just think that if they just can just find some pleasure somewhere, if I can just get some more pleasure, I'm surely going to be satisfied. And I hate to quote Mick Jagger, but he was right when he says, I can't get no satisfaction. Oh, he was telling the truth. I can't get no. That's right. Because that's a dark part of the cave. And there's one more corner. There's many, many others, but there's the fourth one that God really was speaking to me about, is believing that God's laws and following God's laws is going to make me superior to other folks. Jesus would have called it self-righteousness, thinking that if I can just do it all right now, I can look down and I can wag my finger at those other folks who are in the dark. And a lot of finger wagging goes on, and this group of folks who are spiritually blind do a lot of finger wagging at those pleasure seekers. You see that a whole lot. All those shaking their fingers and talking about, making fun of them, mocking them. You see a lot of that in social media, of these people who mocking others who were living in sinful lifestyles, as if now I'm taking a stand. I'm taking a stand. I'm saving my culture by belittling and making fun of and mocking others. I'm going to tell you, folks, that's spiritual pride, and it is as dark as any darkness in the cave. It's the people who were in that crowd who killed Jesus. And it's the hardest one to reach because they don't think they got any problems. See, all the others kind of know it. Because as long as they've been living in that and doing those things, they realize there's no fulfillment. I'm not going to spend any more time on the darkness in the cave. What I want us to talk about is getting out of the cave. But this is a universal truth. It's just a universal spiritual reality. Without Jesus as our light, I go around groping in the dark, trying to find my way, stumbling on Legos and corners of coffee tables. I'm groping around, stumbling around in the dark, just trying to find my way, trying to find some sense of where I am and where I belong and what I'm going to do. And it's this this struggle in the darkness because I'm searching for meaning and I'm searching for happiness and I'm searching for satisfaction. But I'm going to tell you, folks, there is a better way. Let's turn to what Paul said in Ephesians. So who are we? Who are we? He says here in verse 8, for you were once what? Darkness. We were once darkness. That's where we walked. All of our life was in darkness before we came to Jesus. It says, for you once were darkness, for you were once darkness, but now you are what? Light in the Lord. You are light because the Holy Spirit has been placed in you to be a light. Walk as children of the light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, finding out what's acceptable to the Lord, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it's shameful even to speak of those things which are done by them in secret. How do you make things exposed? You just shine the light on it. You don't go shame it. It already feels enough shame. Just shine the light on it. But all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light, for whatever makes manifest is light. Therefore, God says, awake, you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you what? Will give you light. Peter, who are we? Peter says almost the exact same thing that Paul says. It must be something important. It must be something that they learned about following Jesus, about following the light. Because Peter says in 1 Peter, I didn't put this one up on the screen, says, you are a chosen generation. This is who you are. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, His own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. Who once were a people, or who once were not a people, but now are a people of God, who had not obtained mercy, but now you have obtained mercy. How many of you struggle with darkness? Even those of us who we know Jesus, we've asked Jesus, we've received Jesus, the Holy Spirit lives in us. But I'm going to tell you, sometime we struggle with darkness. And if anybody says they don't struggle with darkness, I just think they're not telling the truth. We all struggle with darkness. But how can that be? I mean, He said we're out of darkness. He's called us out of darkness into being the light. And now I find myself creeping. It just kind of starts creeping in. And before you know it, you've slept too long and your fire has gone out. And sometimes it happens to me often where just a wave of darkness hits me. I mean, just a wave of it, and you just feel it, and you feel it. I mean, you just feel the darkness all around you, just trying to dominate and snuff out the light. But you know what? Darkness can never put out a candle. Amen. It only becomes dark when the candle goes out. That's right. So keep burning. I just want to give you 3 things to do when we start struggling with this darkness. Number 1, we start looking to the source of that which gives us light. And we say, Jesus, give me light. If you feel the darkness creeping in, you feel the darkness overwhelming you in waves, and it does come in waves for me. I don't know how it comes for you. But I'll be sitting in my chair and I will just feel a wave. You say, Jesus, give me light right now. Number 1, we've got to look to the source of the light. Because if the light is there, it will do what to the darkness? It will drive it away. Number two, I'll say, God, search my heart. Search my heart. Show me any part of my life where I have believed a lie. And almost every time the darkness begins to come over you and to stay over you, it's because I've bought into a lie. I've bought into some kind of deception that's now clouding and hindering the light in my life. And you got to say, God, number one, illuminate me. Number two, Father, search me and show me. Show me the lie. I've got to find it. The Jews, before they would have the Passover, they would go look for the leaven because they wanted to get rid of the leaven that was in their house, and they would search and look and get rid of it. There are things in our life that we've got to get rid of sometimes if we want the light. So search my heart, Father, because I do not want to be taken captive anymore. And number three, you speak to that darkness. You have been given the spiritual authority as a believer in Jesus Christ. You wonder why we've been studying about spiritual gifts. Spiritual gifts are not just so that you can have just a jolly good time. It is to deal with this warfare. You speak to the darkness, and you speak to that darkness when it comes over, and you say, you have no power here. You have no authority in my home, and you must go now. And we have to speak to it. We speak to it with our words, and we speak with the authority that God gives us. And we begin to speak truths about ourselves. I am a child of God. I am a chosen generation. I am His royalty. I am His servant. I am His friend. And darkness, you have no right here. And I'm going to tell you, we want to drive away the darkness. We take those 3 steps, and you're going to see things brighter, clearly, quickly. But that's something you've got to do. The light's there, but you've got to receive it. Because even as a Christian, you know you can reject light. God starts giving you revelation and you don't walk in it. What I'm doing is I'm rejecting the light. And the closer you get to God and the further along you walk in your Christian walk, the more important it is for us to be receptive to follow the revelation that God gives us. Because every time we don't. I mean, we ask God to speak to us. We ask God to tell us. And then God tells us and we say, I'm not sure that's really what I want to do, God. We're just inviting the darkness to come back in, to creep in. Aren't we? And I'm going to tell you, this isn't just for us. It's really not for us. We have the light within us. And all of those who've received Jesus have that light. It may not be the brightest light yet, but I'm going to tell you what it will be if you keep letting it in. You keep receiving it. God, I receive it. You know, it's like you start opening the door. You ever open a door that's got light on the other side? And you crack that door a little bit, and what do you got? A little bit of light. But you know what? The light on the other side of that door is a lot brighter than what you're experiencing right now, isn't it? And so you open that door just a little bit more, and you get a little bit more what? You get a little more light. But you start shutting that door a little bit, and what starts happening? It starts getting darker. Can we just decide we're going to fly open those doors and let it all in? God, I want all of your light. I want all of your light. I want all of your light shining in me and on me. And show me all the spots. You know, you sometimes say, I don't like the lights in this room. It makes me, or like in a mirror. There would be a certain mirror in a hotel. I said, I don't like this. It makes me look fat. No, I am fat. I'm used to a different mirror that shows a different angle. Or my hair. I don't realize my hair is that gray until I go to a different light at a different hotel that's got a different light formation on it. Man, how did my hair get so gray all of a sudden? No, I just saw a different light. All these spots on me, where did this come from? Well, you got a little bit letter light. And the truth is, we'll see our ugliness a whole lot more when we see it in the light. But I'm going to tell you what, God will do something about it and free us from it if we'll start walking in the light. More light. You want more light? It's going to take some courage. It's going to take some courage. You're going to see some things about yourself you're not so proud of. Some things you don't like. But I'm going to tell you, we've got a good, gracious Father who will help you change them. We've got a good God, a gracious Father who wants to work in you. So those of us who've received Him, we want this light. We want this light. We want to be carriers of that light. And the truth is, everywhere you go, you are carriers of that light. Everywhere you go. But it's not just for us. It's for others. Because Jesus called us to be light bearers, to go to a dark world. I want to encourage you to go to the dark places in which other people live. Are they coming here? I want us to be honest. Are the people in darkness coming here? It's time for us to go to them and to carry the light. Not with condemnation, not with wagging fingers and wagging heads and wagging tongues. We have something that they need.
That's right.
And it's not so they can see our big houses and our grand clothes and all the prosperity things we have. That stuff means nothing. What we have is the light of Christ in us.
Yes.
And that's what they need. It's time for us to look for the dark places in our communities and take the light to them. Take the light that God's given you. You can't explain anything more than what you understand. And sometimes we think, well, I just don't have all the answers. Well, but you got some answers. Quit waiting to know it all, because you're not ever going to know it all. You're not ever going to be fully qualified, but you qualified enough. If you've got some light in you, you share the light that God has given you. And you need to stop there, stop there. You have some questions that they ask that you don't understand, come find somebody here. I can tell you somebody here is going to know the answer. Or together you're going to seek God and ask for the answer. But we've got to stop waiting on ministry, waiting for people to come to us. If we're going to be light bearers, it's time for us to go into the caves. We've been in the caves. We know what it feels like to be in the cave. It's time for us to go to the caves. And for us to spend time one-on-one with people. Sharing light is not a mass deliverance. It is a person-to-person exposure where you have light and they need answers and they need somebody who can give them hope. And you are that person. You are that person because God's put it in you. Hadn't He?
Yes. Amen.
It's going to cause us to need spiritual discernment. You wonder why the spiritual gifts are important? This is where it is important. It is important for us to have spiritual discernment, to understand what part of the cave is this person in. God, reveal to me what is the darkness, what is the lie that they've believed, where are they bound and held captive and held in bondage. Father, give me the light that they need to see right now, at this time, at this place. We're not going to do it on your own. You're not going to do it with a script. You're not going to do it with a Bible card that says, okay, this is the steps that you have to follow. Now get up out of the cave. You say, you know what? I was in darkness, just like you. Do you want something better? And let me help you walk out of it. Let me share the light. You ever walked in the dark with somebody who was hogging the light? You know what I mean? They've got, there's several of you, and they've got the lantern, and where do they put the lantern? Out in front of them, right? And you walking behind, and what does it look like to you? It's dark, right? We hog in the light, and others can't see. You know, a real good guide gets that light and takes it away from their body and puts it out where it casts a light for others to see. The spiritual gifts that God gives you, whether it's spiritual discernment or a word of wisdom or speaking a prophecy or just hearing from God, it's important for us. It's important for us because they are in darkness and they need you to speak the light to them. And what you have is an offer, and the offer is just the light of Jesus. I have something to offer you. I'm not here to condemn you. I'm not here to tell you how dark you are. They know it. I have something to offer you that will give you and show you a way out. Isn't that what the church ought to be doing? Isn't that what I ought to be doing? Isn't that what you ought to be doing? Those of us who are disciples, who want to make disciples, we offer the love of Jesus and the light of Jesus so that they also can become children of God. Dallas, will you come on up? I'll tell you what. This week has been good for me because I feel impressed with the need. To get out of regular old church living and just coming to a service and enjoying our time together. And those are important things. What I'm going to tell you what's more important is for us to take the light that God's given you and go share it with others. Because we're living in a world of darkness, and that world of darkness is not going to change as long as we stay in our box. Jesus says you are to be a city upon a hill, a light. And what do you do with the light? You put a bushel basket, you cover it up? No. He says, no, don't do that. The light, this is for us. It's not from a matter of spiritual pride. It's a matter of I'm a fellow cave dweller. I have been a fellow cave dweller. I have been in all four corners of that cave. And I don't want to go back again. And I don't want you to go back again. I hope this will be a time when you just will say, God, I want to see more light. Let's go and turn down the lights if you would. And I want the prayer partners to come over here. It may be a time you just want to get right with God and you just want to pray to God and say, God, see, all of a sudden it got dark. Do you want to live in darkness? I'm only living this as an example. If this is what happens to us, we hear a message, we feel good, we have some good things to say, then we go right back to a darkness, and I don't want us to walk in it. Elders, if y'all would come up here and pray for people. If you've got a physical need, I want to ask you to come in faith. We believe that God heals here. We believe God ministers here. We've seen some wonderful things that God has done and been doing. But y'all stand with me.